Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. So you basically have a bunch of social norm fanatics. We're image norm fanatics. The word image is a play on words for I mage and I game. Anagrams. Anyway, they want people to pretend that the three pictures on the screen in their true form are magically equal. They edited these pictures, okay, on the internet, and they made it so that I had to take a picture of printouts and those pictures were already, they edited my picture. Those other pictures they edited doesn't matter so much because they weren't that impressive anyway, and they're of other people. Okay, though it is making it a little bit more confusing, but it's not that big of a deal. But they edited that picture of mine, which is one of the most handsome pictures that anyone's ever taken, ever, with a universal scale. Now, for those of you who reject my universal scale argument because you're some kind of idiots, you don't want to admit that, the Black Panther has more universal appeal than Fat Bastard. I found this picture from the internet that was posted by somebody who was alluding to, if not directly pointing to, the idea of universal appeal. So when they were making their argument, not mine, that a certain scripture was saying that the Israelites were black. Again, that's their argument, not mine. Okay, they're close to right one way or another with their argument, and they said, hey, this guy, is a white guy who's hairy and so on and so forth, and he's less appealing than what they were arguing was maybe the natural state of black people or whatever they're saying. And they chose somebody who's very African American, almost crypto-Jewish, kind of Greek society-ish, fraternity-like, a very fraternity, Freemason, college frat, very fraternity-like. Type of guy to put on extra chapstick or something in a certain way that's gayish without being full-fledged gay. Very much that like. The type of person wearing an apron or something, but, that kind of thing. And that person still has more appeal than the white guy, right? And it's universal appeal. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, no shit, right? Believe it or not, in America, especially in California, people play dumb about this. They play real dumb. I'm shunned. For example, there's some things that are more subtle. For example, if I was to tell you that maybe 1% of guys, are significantly more handsome than the other 99%, where with females, it's more like 5 to 10% of females are significantly more attractive than the other, than the rest of them. Okay? That when it comes to that beauty gap with females, there's 5 to 10 times more attractive females than there are handsome guys among guys. Most people don't think about it to that degree. And then, if you're an attractive female, you're more likely, okay, to get a favorable response based on your looks than if you're a handsome guy. Guys tend to have a higher sex drive. Lots of guys, or you might say minute man, I don't care if they last a minute or last an hour. But it has to do with their sex drive. Why do they last, why do they finish quickly, more quickly? Because they have a higher sex drive. Duh, right? It's a more pressing need for them to do whatever they got to do. Now, there's a bunch of geeks who think it's smart to try to confuse. There's a bunch of arrogant, racist white people, European, rich people, what have you, Jews who are rich, who see themselves as controlling the goy. Not necessarily all Jews see it that way. I'm sure most Jews, well, maybe not most Jews, but I'm sure a lot of Jews don't see it that way, but a lot of them do. Just like with, conservatives, racist conservatives in America. Not every white person's a racist conservative in America. But basically almost all of them, if not all of them, are on the spectrum of racism. That's a story for another day. But, a lot of them are racist conservatives. So when we look at this thing, okay, and we ask ourselves, why aren't women responding to the person who is the most universally handsome that ever lived? Why aren't they responding to him? I'm even mulatto, not all the way black. And when white people are trying to get a tan, they're trying to look mulatto, not all the way black or all the way white. And I'm more of my body, historically, I have the most handsome and sexy and appealing body there ever was. Forged with generational righteousness, right? The difference between Lex Luthor and a cartoon character that's supposed to be handsome is the idea that one of them is righteous, and the other one is an evil person. Evil people can't be handsome, hand of God, good looking, good. They can't be that. They can just be less ugly than other ugly people or evil people. Pretty straightforward. And for those of you who say, no, I reject this, look at the screen carefully. Is your argument really that white person there is equally as handsome as the two black people who are depicted? Okay, if that is your argument, you're among the minority in society still. Even with all this radical left madness and all the white supremacy, you're in the minority. Most people are smart enough to look at those three pictures and say the guy, which is me, in the martial art outfit is the most handsome. There's some pretty gayish looking guy who probably has his gay lover rub, loyal on his body while making weird faces, on the way to plug a kid or something. Okay, not saying that person is that. I'm trying to help you understand the difference. Person might not even be gay, but I want you to understand the difference. And then there's the hairy white guy who looks like he hasn't been to the gym in his life or something. He needs to jog immediately and diet and exercise. You can tell the difference between fruit at the store, ripe versus rotten, but you can't tell the difference between those three pictures. That kind of judgment is pathetic. If you're that racist, you need supervision. If you're that much of a communist fanatic, you need supervision. Pretty straightforward. Now, you see how when society doesn't respond with romantic justice, it's like them not housing the homeless. Just cut the check. I have a plan. You can end homelessness and stay ahead of it effectively, saving money on hotel rooms and encampments and spending that money on housing for just a $30 billion check. 1 million units. 800,000 homeless. Some be 2 people in per unit. 1 million units for $30 billion. If it was $100 billion, which is another one of my plans, which has apartment buildings instead of tiny homes, okay, it would be 1/370th of the debt. You times it by 3. That's less than 1/1000th of the debt. It's a drop in the bucket. 1/1000th. But they won't do it. And that's some bitch shit that they won't do it. And when females shun the most righteous guy, the most handsome guy that ever lived, that's also some bitch shit. If someone will say, hey, the way you took those pictures makes it hard to see, and they play stupid about what I'm depicting, but they understand it in a cartoon, that's also some bitch shit. And it's that bitch ass shit that's ruling America and the world right now instead of sense. Both parties have it wrong. Libertarians also have it wrong. You think Bill Maher has magical solutions? No, he's too corny. He's too nerdy. He doesn't know what he's doing. All those viewers in America are still dumber than hell. That means he's part of the problem. Millions of libertarians, Americans are still dumber than hell. They're part of the problem. Are they all rallying together, pointing to a war on poverty plan? No. Are they rallying together to show a sound plan to end homelessness? No. They're part of the problem. They even talk about romantic justice effectively. Never once heard a libertarian talk about romantic justice effectively. They're part of the problem. Same with the churches. Sometimes they come close, but they're part of the problem. These people have countless members, and they won't get together to insist on sense because they're evil. There's no other way to look at it. And it's as obvious as the difference between the 3 people on the screen. Character and characteristic. You don't have the character to understand the different characteristics. The word care is part of the word character, one way or another. And care, first the letter C, then R, to bother to see who people are. If you don't care enough about people to see the fucking differences and to understand universal justice when it's affecting the most stigmatized and oppressed people on the planet, you are a horrible fucking person. You want people to reproduce with trash and to play fucking stupid about the differences on the fucking screen? How much more when it becomes some corporate dog with all their blood money? You would rather attractive women date corporate pieces of fucking shit who play stupid about what matters most and hoard money? than the most righteous person that ever lived? Have you lost your fucking minds? All of you. Are you fucking crazy?